The peace talks in Ukraine are cut short. But what does that mean to the investors in the oil and gas market and in the United States? That next on the Energy Newsbeat Daily Stand-Up. Russia, the failure of the peace talks, needless to say. Russia-Ukraine talks stall. Will Congress ramp up sanctions to pressure on Moscow? This is a huge story as we sit back and say, this has been clear for 6 months that President Trump does not have the information he needs to end the war, and we're watching peace slip through his fingers, which has horrible implications for the global markets and the United States midterm elections. I've been discussing this with Problem on my podcast, and we've explored potential solutions. Where most people don't understand the relevance to energy in this discussion, Russia has well had over 4% GDP growth, while all the rest of the sanctions that the Biden administration, whoever was running the country, was hitting Russia with, it did nothing but do anything but weaken the U.S. dollars. This morning, the Istanbul meeting hit a wall. The mediated under pressure from President Donald Trump lasted less than 2 hours and produced no breakthrough. Ukraine, led by President Vladimir Zelensky, reiterated its readiness for a 30-day unconditional ceasefire, but insisted on seeing a clear Russian proposal. Moscow, meanwhile, presented terms described by a Ukrainian source as non-starters. I can go through the rest of the details. Let's just say that the President Putin is over here, President Zelensky is over here, and they really could care less what's going on right now. The only way President Trump is going to get Vladimir Putin to the table is through understanding what is important to President Putin, and that is business. Everything else is just secondary. President Putin wants to do business and he wants peace to go forward. We are not negotiating from a position of strength. So Trump's balancing act, who has pushed for a swift resolution for the war, now faces delicate balancing act, and it is not going to be there unless there is a path forward. The new trading blocks, President Putin has got his new trading blocks, and they are in Asia. They are in anything but the EU. We may see the EU dissolve. This is a gigantic story. Anyway, I'll keep you posted on it. And we've been telling you all along for the last 6 months that President Trump's team do not have the correct information or what motivates President Trump. You cannot be there to broker a deal if you don't know what President Putin is thinking. Let's go to the next story here. Trump's administration to roll back Biden's curbs on Alaska oil drilling. Well done, Secretary Doug Burgum. This is an outstanding. Again, I want to give President Trump a shout out. He still has the best administration in the history of this country, with the exception of the folks working on the Russia-Ukraine deal. The domestic team for President Trump is out of the park. The Biden administration suspended in 2021 oil leases in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge in Alaska months after President Joe Biden took over from the term in office. Biden also finalized a strategy to help protect federal lands, which includes restricting access to drilling and mining parts of the National Petroleum Reserve in Alaska, the NPRA, in 2024. Now the Trump administration is looking to open up areas again. This is huge. This is from Secretary Burgum. Alaska has an opportunity to allow us to do more mandates of the Trump administration, which is to sell energy to our friends and allies so they don't have to buy it from our adversaries. Secretary Burgum, you are spot on and well done. Let's go to the next story here. Tight oil production in Permian drives growth in onshore U.S. lower 48 states production. I'll tell you what, this is very important. This is from the EIA, and I'm trusting in the EIA's numbers more now with Secretary Wright in charge. And I'm very pleased to see how they broke this out. Legacy production decreased to 2.1 million and 2.4 over the same period. Tight oil production increased. So when you sit back and take a look, the EIA numbers are looking good. But I also put in this article a comparison of the global market of the top oil producers in 2025 year to date. And I put these numbers in the top. And you take a look at the United States, we are leading the pack again for production in here at 13.55 million barrels per day. The U.S. is with a record-breaking output driven by shale production. Saudi Arabia is at 10.5 million barrels per day. Russia is at 9.7 million barrels per day. Canada is at 5.5 million barrels per day. Iraq is at 4.4, and China is at 4.1. But you look at who the largest oil importers are, and that's a whole different discussion on that. But anyway, outstanding job to the EIA again for getting some great information out there. This next story out here, why Goldman Sachs expects OPEC plus output hikes to end in August and implications for the oil market and the U.S. investors. Goldman Sachs anticipates that OPEC plus will raise oil output by approximately 0.41 million barrels per day in August, continuing a trend of incremental production increases over recent months. Here are some key factors. Balancing supply and demand. Goldman analysis highlights a delicate balance. Rising non-OPEC supply. Non-OPEC producers, particularly in the U.S. and Canada, are increasing output, which reduces the need for sustained OPEC plus hikes. Goldman notes that this growing supply combined with resilient global demand could lead to surpluses. And in fact, that kind of counters what some of the other things that Goldman has put out in the past. What we've seen is Rystad also came out, and we've written this about this in this article, is that Rystad is saying very good demand numbers. And you've heard it here on the podcast. If India's increased demand can outstretch the shortening of China's market, we are going to see very good markets for a rise in oil prices. And what does that mean for oil investors? It means more money. I do want to take a moment and give Reese Energy Consulting a shout out. Shout out to Steve Reese. Reese is one of the coolest cats on the planet. They absolutely are your go-to. If you're a data center and you want to know where to put your AI data center or what you're doing in the United States, you need to reach out to reeseenergyconsulting.com. Go out there and reach them and say, hey, I need to know where to put a data center. If you're moving molecules in natural gas or oil, you need to visit with them because you want to get every penny you can for every molecule that you're transporting. In fact, they have expertise of being able to deliver from U.S. molecules, get them to LNG, put them on tankers, and they've got expertise and company information from around the world. So reeseenergyconsulting.com, great folks. Let's go to the last story here. Shout out to Venture Global's CP2 LNG start mobilization site preparation. This is really cool. This is from an announcement that the FERC said on May 30th it granted Venture Global CP2 LNG's July 4th, 2024 request. In considering this notice to proceed, we've reviewed the CP2 LNG implementation plans and the best management practices described in your application filings. This is very good. I've added to the top of this article some of the key investment financial performance for Venture Global. taking a look at it, their revenue of 2.9 billion with a 105 increase, up 1.48 billion from Q1 of 2024. This surge was driven by 93% increase in LNG export volumes, reflecting strong operational performance. Income from operations reached 1.1 billion. And I've always said good management, good numbers. And I've reached out to them to interview their CEO, and let's see if we can get him on the podcast. But good management, good numbers. So with that, like, subscribe, go to the Energy Newsbeat podcast, go to energynewsbeat.co, or go to theenergynewsbeat.substack.com. And I look forward to visiting with you. If you are a energy CEO, I want to visit with you. And we're working on a very large group of folks coming in. We've got some fantastic guests lined up. And as always, my name's Stu Turley, President and CEO of the Sandstone Group. Have a fantastic day. Talk to y'all soon.